When you hear the word empire, what do you see? Roman legions, Egyptian pyramids. For most of Western history, one empire was cast as the ultimate villain. The shadowy, decadent, faceless horde standing against freedom. But this empire was also the world's first true superpower. An empire that, at its peak, ruled over 44% of the entire human population. This is the story of an empire built not just on conquest, but on tolerance, innovation, and a revolutionary idea that you could rule a diverse world without destroying its diversity. This is the story of the Persian Empire. Our story begins in the 6th century BCE, in the rugged highlands of modern-day Iran. The world was a patchwork of warring kingdoms, the Babylonians, the Medes, the Lydians. No one had yet united the ancient Middle East. That is, until a man named Cyrus. Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid dynasty, wasn't just a brilliant general. He was a political genius. He conquered the Median Empire, then famously defeated King Croesus of Lydia, and finally, in 539 BCE, he marched on the impenetrable city of Babylon. He took it without a major battle, diverting the Euphrates River to march his troops under its walls. But what Cyrus did after the conquest is what changed the world. In an age of brutal subjugation, Cyrus was a liberator. He famously freed the Jewish people held captive in Babylon, allowing them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. He documented his philosophy on a small clay artifact known as the Cyrus cylinder. In it, he proclaimed freedom of religion, abolished forced labor, and declared that all people had the right to choose their own faith. Many historians consider this to be the world's first charter of human rights. In just a few decades, Cyrus had forged the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching from the edge of India to the shores of Greece. Cyrus's son, Cambyses II, would achieve what even the great Egyptian pharaohs thought impossible. He conquered Egypt, adding the land of the Nile to the Persian crown. But the man who truly organized this vast territory was his successor, Darius the Great. Darius was an administrator, a builder, an organizer on a scale that beggars belief. He understood that to control an empire of 50 million people, you needed more than just a big army. You needed infrastructure. He divided the empire into 20 provinces, called satrapies, each ruled by a local governor or satrap who had significant autonomy. To connect his empire, Darius established the Chapar Khane, a royal postal system. A relay of horsemen could carry a message from one end of the empire to the other in just 7 days, a journey that would take a normal traveler 3 months. This system ran along the empire's new highway, the famous Royal Road. It stretched over 1,700 miles, with rest stations and fresh horses at regular intervals. It was the information superhighway of the ancient world, allowing Darius to manage trade, deploy armies, and send his eyes and ears, a network of spies, to ensure his governors remained loyal. Darius also standardized weights, measures, and crucially, a single currency, the gold daric. This was the world's first economic union. To demonstrate the empire's power and receive tribute from its many nations, Darius began construction on a magnificent ceremonial capital, Persepolis. Rising from a massive stone terrace, this city was a masterpiece of Achaemenid art and architecture. Relief carvings on its grand stairways show delegations from across the empire: Ethiopians, Indians, Lydians, and Scythians, all walking side by side, bringing gifts to the King of Kings. Persepolis wasn't just a building, it was a political statement, a symbol of a new multicultural world order united under Persian rule. But this rapid expansion west was bound to find a limit. That limit was Greece. In 499 BCE, a handful of Greek city-states in Ionia, on the coast of modern-day Turkey, rebelled against Persian rule. Athens sent ships to aid them. For Darius, this was an internal matter, a minor revolt in a backwater province. For the Greeks, it was a fight for freedom. Darius's first attempt to punish Athens ended in a shocking defeat at the Battle of Marathon. 10 years later, his son, Xerxes the Great, would return to finish the job. Xerxes assembled one of the largest armies ever seen. He famously built a bridge of boats across the Hellespont, the channel separating Asia and Europe, and marched on Greece. He won a costly victory at Thermopylae, the famous last stand of the 300 Spartans, and went on to burn the city of Athens to the ground. But the war was far from over. At the naval battle of Salamis, the Athenian fleet lured the massive Persian navy into a narrow strait, where their smaller, more maneuverable ships rammed the Persian vessels to pieces. Xerxes, watching from a golden throne on the shore, saw his invasion shatter. He retreated, and the Greco-Persian Wars ended with Persia's westward expansion halted for good. For the next 150 years, the Persian Empire entered a period of slow decline, plagued by court intrigue, assassinations, and unruly satraps. The empire was still fabulously wealthy, but it had become a sleeping giant. And in 334 BCE, a storm crossed the Hellespont from the other direction. His name was Alexander, a brilliant, ruthless 20-year-old king from Macedon who had united Greece under his banner. He came not just to conquer, but to destroy. In a whirlwind campaign, Alexander the Great defeated the Persian armies at Issus and Gaugamela, forcing the last Persian king, Darius III, to flee for his life. In 330 BCE, Alexander reached the heart of the empire, Persepolis. In an act of symbolic revenge for the burning of Athens 150 years earlier, he ordered the magnificent city to be looted and burned to the ground. The Achaemenid Empire, the world's first superpower, was over. But the idea of Persia was far from dead. Alexander's own empire crumbled upon his death, but the cultural seed he had planted, a mix of Greek and Persian culture, blossomed into the Hellenistic age. And in Persia itself, a new power would rise. First, the Parthians, the horse lords, who would become Rome's greatest rival. And after them, the Sasanians, who forged a second great Persian empire, one that would clash with the Romans and Byzantines for another 400 years. The Sasanians championed the ancient Persian religion of Zoroastrianism, a faith whose ideas of a single god, a devil, and a final judgment would profoundly influence Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The Sasanian Empire finally fell to the Arab conquests in the 7th century AD, which brought Islam to the region. But the Persian legacy was so strong that it didn't disappear. It was absorbed. Persian culture, poetry, art, and science would become the backbone of the new Islamic Golden Age. Today, the Achaemenid Empire lies in ruins, but its legacy is everywhere. It's in the idea of human rights, in the concept of a postal service, in the highways that connect us, and in the very idea of a multicultural state. The Persian Empire wasn't just a villain in someone else's story. It was the first empire to prove that the world was, and always could be, connected. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.